हरे कृष्ण ग्रंथराज Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in story form, chapter 158. Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi sees the illusory potency of the Lord. Canto 12. Being satisfied by the sage's glorification, Lord Narayana said, "My dear Mārkaṇḍeya, you are indeed the best of all learned Brahmanas. We are perfectly satisfied by your lifelong practice of celibacy. Now, please choose whatever benedictions you desire." Mārkaṇḍeya said, "O Lord of Lords, all glory is unto you. You remove all distress for the devotees who surrender unto you. That you have allowed me to see you in all the benediction I want. That you have allowed me to see you is all the benediction I want." Lord Brahma had achieved his exalted position simply by seeing your lotus feet within his purified mind. What then is my good fortune, since you have personally appeared before me? Still, O lotus-eyed Lord, I would like to see your illusory potency, by which even the ruling demigods consider the material manifestation to be factual. Being satisfied with Mārkaṇḍeya, the Supreme Lord smilingly replied, "So be it," and then departed for his hermitage at Badrikashrama. The Lord was smiling ruefully because he prefers that his pure devotees stay away from the illusory energy. While constantly thinking of his desire to see the Lord's illusory energy, Mārkaṇḍeya continued to reside in his ashrama, meditating constantly on the Lord and worshipping him with paraphernalia conceived within his mind. Sometimes Mārkaṇḍeya would forget to perform his regular worship, however, becoming overwhelmed by love for the god. Then, one evening, as Mārkaṇḍeya was performing his worship on the banks of the river Puspabhadra, a great wind suddenly blew, making a terrible sound. Fearsome clouds, accompanied by lightning and thunder, then filled the sky, and torrents of rain began to fall. The four oceans then appeared on all sides, covering the entire surface of the earth. Within the wind-tossed waves were terrible sea monsters, as well as giant whirlpools and ominous rumblings. Mārkaṇḍeya became exceedingly perplexed and fearful as he saw how all the inhabitants of the universe were being tormented. Indeed, as he looked on, the water which was being whipped into terrifying waves by hurricane-like winds covered the entire surface of the earth, including the mountains. After inundating the earth, the water continued to cover all space until the entire universe was flooded. Out of all the universe's inhabitants, only Mārkaṇḍeya remained. With his matted hair scattered, the sage wandered about within the water as if dumb and blind. Tormented by hunger and thirst, attacked by monstrous aquatics such as the Timingala, and battered by the wind and waves, Mārkaṇḍeya wandered aimlessly throughout the infinite darkness in which he had fallen. As he grew increasingly exhausted, Mārkaṇḍeya lost all sense of direction so that he could no longer tell the sky from the earth. Sometimes Mārkaṇḍeya was drawn into great whirlpools, sometimes he was smashed down by gigantic waves, and at other times great aquatic monsters threatened to devour him as they fought among themselves. The sage alternately felt lamentation, bewilderment, happiness, fear, and misery, and sometimes he felt so ill and suffered so much pain that he thought he would die. In this way, countless millions of years passed, Mārkaṇḍeya's mind having become bewildered by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu. Then once Mārkaṇḍeya came to a small island upon which stood a young banyan tree bearing fruit and blossoms. Upon a branch of the northeast portion of that tree, he saw a baby boy lying within a leaf. his effulgence dissipating the darkness. The infant's complexion was dark blue, and his face shone with a wealth of beauty. His chest was broad, and on his neck were lines like those of a conchal. His ears had inner folds like the spirals of a conchal. The corners of his eyes were reddish, and the effulgence of his lips slightly reddened the enchanting smile of his face. As he breathed, his splendid hair trembled, and his deep navel became distorted by the moving folds of skin on his abdomen. As Mārkaṇḍeya looked, the child took hold of one of his lotus feet and placed a toe within his mouth and began to suck it. The Lord thought, the devotees are always hankering after the nectar of my lotus feet, and so let me personally experience it. As Mārkaṇḍeya continued to look at the child, all his weariness vanished. As Mārkaṇḍeya continued to look at the child, all his weariness vanished. Indeed, so great was his pleasure that the lotus of his heart appeared to blossom, and the hair on his body stood up on end. Wondering about the child's identity, Mārkaṇḍeya approached him. Just at that time, the child inhaled, drawing the sage within his body like a mosquito. Inside, Mārkaṇḍeya saw the entire universe as it had been before the dissolution, filled with all its inhabitants. He saw the basic elements of creation, along with their byproducts, as well as time itself. All was manifested as if real, and when Mārkaṇḍeya was highly perplexed and astonished. He saw before him the Himalaya mountains, the Pushpabhadra river, and his own ashrama. Then suddenly the infant exhaled, casting Mārkaṇḍeya back into the ocean of dissolution. In that vast sea, he again saw the banyan tree growing on a tiny island and the baby boy lying within a leaf. The child then glanced at Mārkaṇḍeya out of the corner of his eyes with a smile imbued with the nectar of love. Taking the Lord into his heart through his eyes, the greatly agitated sage ran to embrace him. But at that moment, the child became invisible, just as the achievements of an incompetent person can suddenly vanish. At the same time, the banyan tree and the water of dissolution vanished, and in an instant, Mārkaṇḍeya found himself back at his ashrama just as before. Hare Krishna.